That knot in your stomach when you see bank restrictions announced. When your hand shakes opening the news about frozen accounts, that's not intuition, that's engineering. You're not paranoids, you're programmed. Every financial panic you've witnessed follows the same blueprint, same sequence, same psychological triggers, same outcome, you desperate accepting whatever solution they offer, digital currency, programmable money, total surveillance, and you'll beg for it. Because fear doesn't ask questions, fear obeys. By the end, you'll know the exact neural pathway they exploit to turn rational investors into compliant cattle. You'll see the pattern they've used for decades, the one hiding in plain sight, and you'll learn the only countermove that makes you invisible to their script. Sarah went from panic buying gold at peak prices to building real wealth immunity while everyone else bled savings. Same news cycle, different frequency. Here's what they won't tell you in financial news. Panic is a product, and it's manufactured with scientific precision. Every bank crisis you've seen, 2008, Cyprus, Greece, Lebanon, Sri Lanka, wasn't chaos. It was choreography. A deliberate sequence designed to trigger your amygdala, bypass your prefrontal cortex, and deliver you straight into behavioral compliance. Neuroeconomics proves this. Under financial threat, humans don't think, they react, predictably, every time. Step 1. Plant the seed. Liquidity concerns, temporary measures. Media floods you with technical jargon you don't understand but sounds catastrophic. Step 2. Escalate gradually. ATM withdrawal limits, for your safety, bank holidays, temporary. Step 3. Normalize the cage. Digital wallets, cashless society, programmable currency. And you accept it because the alternative they showed you was worse. This isn't conspiracy, it's game theory. They don't need to steal your money directly. They just need to make you so terrified of losing it that you'll voluntarily hand over control. The asymmetry is brutal. While you're panic selling assets at the bottom, institutional players are buying your fear at a discount. You're not a victim of economic collapse. You're a participant in psychological warfare. And the battlefield is your mind. Your brain has a backdoor, and they have the access code. It's called the scarcity-urgency loop. Here's how it works. Threat detected, right arrow, cortisol spikes. Prefrontal cortex shuts down, amygdala takes over, right arrow, fight or flight. In nature, this saves your life. In finance, it destroys your wealth. Because when that loop activates, you don't evaluate. You evacuate, you pull money from markets, you buy gold at the top. You accept any solution that promises immediate safety. This is the engineered response. The headlines aren't reporting news, they're triggering your evolutionary survival mechanism. Banks on the brink, depositors lose access, your money at risk. Notice the pattern: always imminent, always catastrophic, always requiring immediate action. That's not journalism, that's stimulus response conditioning. Pavlov didn't train dogs with logic, he trained them with fear and reward. Same principle scaled up. And here's the part that should terrify you: they've refined this over generations. The 1933 banking holiday, Nixon closing the gold window, the 2008 bailouts. Each iteration taught them how to calibrate the fear dose. Too much panic, people revolt. Too little, people don't comply. But hit the sweet spot, that zone where you're terrified enough to obey but not desperate enough to fight, and you'll accept digital handcuffs with a smile. The new programmable currency isn't being forced on you. You're being conditioned to demand it. Because the alternative they've shown you, chaos, collapse, frozen accounts, is so horrifying that surveillance money feels like rescue. This is the neural hijack, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. So how do you disconnect from the script they wrote for you? First step, stop reacting to the headlines. But there's a deeper layer most people never reach. If you can't beat the system, become invisible to it. Here's what financial freedom actually requires: not fighting the narrative, disconnecting from it entirely. The moment you react, panic sell, panic buy, rush to safe havens, you've already lost. You're playing their game, following their timeline. Real immunity isn't in gold, crypto, or offshore accounts. It's in psychological detachment from the fear cycle. Here's the protocol. Day 17, pattern recognition training. Track every urgent financial headline. Write down the emotional trigger. Banks failing. Inflation out of control. Protect yourself now. Notice they all follow the same structure. threat, urgency, solution. Your mission: read them without reacting. Train your nervous system to recognize manipulation before your amygdala can fire. Day 821, Information Diet Restructuring. Cut 90% of financial news. Not because it's false, because it's designed to trigger you. Replace with leading indicators, not lagging headlines. Central bank meeting minutes, liquidity metrics, credit default swaps. Data that shows what's coming before the media tells you what happened. Day 2230, Asymmetric positioning. While the herd panics at the headlines, you're positioned for what comes after. This doesn't mean buying gold at peak fear. It means understanding that every manufactured crisis creates predictable human behavior, and predictable behavior creates exploitable patterns. When they tell you to panic, someone's buying. When they tell you it's safe, someone's selling. Your job: be the someone. Not through superior knowledge, through superior emotional regulation. But here's what makes this strategy actually work in real life, and it's counterintuitive. Sarah, 29, financial analyst at a mid-sized investment firm, single, living in a studio apartment in Austin. Salary $4,100 month. Zero savings, $18,000 in student loans. March 12, 2:34 a.m. woke up to phone notification. Breaking: major bank freezes customer withdrawals. Chest tightened. Grabbed phone with shaking hands, scrolled through Twitter, panic everywhere. This is it, the collapse. Open bank app, $2,100. Thought, I need to withdraw everything, now. Walk to ATM at 6:47 a.m. Line of 23 people. Everyone's face showed the same thing: controlled terror. Got to the front. Withdrawal limit, $500. The woman behind her said, they're controlling our money, it's starting. Sarah withdrew the $500, drove home, hands wouldn't stop shaking. Friday, March 15th, 8:41 p.m. sitting on her couch. $500 cash on the table. Bank app showed $1,600 remaining. Every financial news channel screaming crisis. One thought wouldn't leave: everyone who's smart is pulling their money out. Why am I still waiting? Then she stopped, asked a different question: who benefits if everyone panics right now? Opened her laptop, ignored the headlines, looked at bank stock prices, down 40% in 3 days, looked at institutional buying data, massive purchases. While retail investors were selling in terror, institutions were buying the fear. She'd been played, the panic was the product, and she'd almost bought it at full price. Made a decision that felt insane. For 30 days, she'd do the opposite of what the headlines told her to feel. Day 1, headlines screamed withdraw now. She deposited her $500 back, felt like jumping off a cliff. Day 5, news said banks stabilizing. She pulled $380 into a separate savings account, ignored the reassurance. Day 12, realized something: the news wasn't informing her. It was directing her, like traffic signals for human behavior. Day 18, started tracking bank stock recovery. Up 28% from the bottom. The people who panicked sold at the worst moment. The people who bought the fear made 28% in 2 weeks. Day 30, saved $1,100. First time in her adult life she had 4 figures in savings, not from a raise, from not reacting. 6 months later, emergency fund $4,200. Bought bank stocks during the next crisis, headline at a 35% discount. Sold 3 weeks later for $1,800 profit. Her coworker on Tuesday: how are you not freaking out about this new headline, Sarah? Because I've seen the script before and I know how it ends. Her roommate: you're calmer about money than anyone I know. What changed, Sarah? I stopped letting the news tell me how to feel. Sarah didn't become a millionaire overnight. She became someone who recognizes the fear factory when it's running, and that immunity is worth more than any safe haven they're selling you. So what does this mean for you right now? There's a specific mental shift that changes everything. Right now, stop. Ask yourself, what financial headline made me feel fear this week? Write it down. Now ask, who benefits if I react to this exactly how they expect me to? Most financial crises aren't about money failing. They're about behavior succeeding. Your behavior, predictable, controllable, profitable for someone else. The banks aren't collapsing, your ability to see through the script is. Here's the shift: you don't need to know what's coming. You need to know how you'll respond when the fear hits. Because the next crisis is already being written, the headlines are already drafted, the fear triggers are already calibrated. And when it launches, 95% of people will do exactly what the script expects: panic, react, comply. Your competitive advantage isn't superior information, it's superior emotional immunity. You don't beat the system by fighting it. You beat it by becoming invisible to the psychological warfare they're running. The moment you stop reacting to the fear they manufacture, you stop being the product they're selling. That's not freedom from the system, that's freedom from the script. And that changes everything. Comment script broken if you identified the fear pattern manipulating you and you're disconnecting from it today. If you're the type who refuses to be herded by manufactured panic, the video on screen shows you the exact financial immunity protocol to build wealth while everyone else bleeds savings to fear. Like this video, share it with someone still trapped in reactive mode. Subscribe because every week I bring you the psychological weapons they use against you and how to neutralize them. And drop in the comments, what's the one financial headline that triggered you this month? Let's decode the manipulation together.